Analysis shows political action has helped a dramatic decline in the number of trees lost in the tropical forests of Brazil and Colombia, which is vital to tackling climate change. The study from the University of Maryland and the World Resources Institute says that the election of President Lula da Silva in Brazil led to a 36% fall in logging in the Brazilian Amazon last year compared to 2022. However, rising tree losses in Bolivia, Nicaragua and other countries wiped out many of these gains. Let's cross live now to Rod Taylor, Global Director of the Forest Programme at the World Resources Institute, who has more on this. Welcome to you. Thanks very much for joining us from Geneva. Tell us a bit more about the findings of this report.
The report is a story about climate change, about political will, and about the future economic options for people living in rainforests. So the political will story, as you noted, we've seen dramatic decreases in deforestation in Brazil and Colombia, and that links closely to new governments there who have taken decisive action to deal with the issue of deforestation. The climate change story is a good illustration of what's happening in Bolivia, where we saw massive fires this year, driven in part by drier conditions, degraded forests that burn more easily, and so on. And finally, there's the development challenge. People living in and around rainforests need future pathways to development that are consistent with having healthy rivers and forests around them.
And how is that impacting? How are those countries that are heavily engaged in deforestation at the moment, what lessons are they learning from those countries who've managed to pull back from this?
Yeah, I think it ultimately comes down to political will. And so, the story in Brazil does show what a difference that makes. But also, I think it's a realization of the local impacts of deforestation. So, for example, the Amazon generates rainfall for lots of the farming regions in South America. And if that rain goes away, it affects the whole economy. So I think ultimately it's those local impacts that's likely to drive that political will.
Yeah, not just political will. We need economic solutions, don't we? Land is under pressure in so many of these countries. So what could be done to replace this economically, the logging and the use of this land?
Yeah, I think there are two broad things. I think the global commodity supply chains that are linked to that deforestation, we've seen enormous movement by companies committing to be deforestation free. That momentum needs to continue. And for example, the EU is talking about introducing regulations around that. And then more from the local perspective, people need real development options that allow them to kind of have their forests and find future economic livelihoods. And so there's a lot of interesting experimentation going around on what a forest-friendly economy can look like.
Yeah, you mentioned the EU there. Is there enough international support for these countries who rely on deforestation economically to supplement, to replace this?
Yeah, that's the big challenge of approaches like the EU's is how to support the countries that are going to have to jump through these new regulations to be ready to meet them and to improve yields in the existing farms, for example, to take the pressure off the remaining natural areas.
Okay, really interesting to get your thoughts. Thanks very much for being with us, Rod Taylor, there in Geneva.
Thank you.